Ladies and gentlemen, our guest tonight, Mulligan. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'd like to present to you the Master of Ceremonies for this evening, Mr. Ken Harkins.
Very warm welcome. Is this on? Oh yeah. I got one that does that. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you, each and every one of you here this evening to the Polish Club for an Irishman. This is Tiny's first retirement party. If it works well here, we're going to go up to Pelham, and then we'll try some other areas. It all depends on the take tonight, Tiny. But we sincerely want to welcome each and every one of you here, and we'd ask you please just to think with us for a moment as we ask God's blessings on Tiny, his family, all of his wonderful friends, relatives. We also ask you, please, remember in your prayers Tiny's mother, who will not be with us this evening because she passed away this week, and we're certainly not trying to bring something to lower the level of the party, but certainly we want to thank each and every one of you for your thoughts this week, for being with Tiny and the family in the passing of his mother. We know that your prayers are with her now. And we ask now God's blessings on this food and thus wise service. Amen. Now, if you want one, if you pay for your ticket, you can eat. How about a nice big hand for our disc jockey this evening, one of our own, Paul Cedra. I feel like you're working in a wind tunnel or something. Oh, what's that thing out there? Is that funny? Keep watching it, all right? We want to once again welcome you here this evening to this wonderful party for Mr. the Armenian heavyweight, Mulligan, Tiny Mulligan. We first want to introduce the head table to you because they were the ones that got fed first, and they didn't pay a goddamn thing for their tickets. So down on my far right, the gentleman who really has come up in the world in many, many ways, Belvedere resident now. For Craig's sake, Mulligan was a Belvedere resident when he was born. The superintendent of the Lowell Police Department, his lovely wife, Fran, John Sheehan, his lovely wife, Fran Sheehan. On my left, the gentleman who is still wearing one of Mike Dukakis' sweaters. Winter's over, Jimmy. It was spring the other day. We had Easter already. Our good friend, the city manager, Jimmy Campbell. Jimmy Campbell. one of the family members. We didn't put both of the brothers up here because I can get screwed up enough without having twins up at the head tables. But one of the Mulligan boys, the gentleman who is Dept, the detective spent $1,000 on my nose, now my mouth won't work. Detective Lieutenant in the Nashville Police Department, Jimmy Mulligan and his lovely wife, Margot. In the audience, we also have a few more Mulligans. We have the other half of that birthing that day, and if you look at them, you can see that they are twins. One's a little smarter than the other, but other than that, you figure out which one. But they did inherit something from their father. It's called baldness. They look like the before ads of the Thomas Hayer team, you know. But seriously, he's the deputy chief in Merrimack, New Hampshire. That's young William and his lovely wife, Nancy. Billy and Nancy have two children, Courtney and Billy, who are not here this evening, but that's two of the grandchildren of Tiny. And on the other side of the Mulligan family, the beautiful part of the Mulligan family, the girls, we have the lovely Joanne Mulligan Morris. Joanne Mulligan Morris. And her handsome husband, attorney Edward Morris, Jr., Eddie. And the Morris clan, Edward, Jonathan, and Bethany. Also with us is another of the Mulligan girls. She's now Patricia Mulligan Egan. Patricia, where are you? Yeah. And her husband, Barry Egan. Yeah. Looks like you got the Mulligan illness also. You married into the family and the hair went. Your mother told you not to get too close. I hope he can take it. Can he take a joke? He just said, can you start your car while you're holding your ears? The sons of the Egan family are Sean and Jeffrey. Sean and Jeffrey. Also, we have on our lovely lady here, who is the first lady this evening, Barbara Mann Mulligan. Barbara. And the stepchildren of Tiny and Barbara's sons and daughters, Joe Howe. Joe. Mary Ellen Howe and her husband John Downs. Mary Ellen Howe Downs. Howe Downs. Pretty good. Howe Downs you. Michael Howe and was it Sola? What's the what? Sula? Sula Bula. Are you Sula in green? Are you Sula? How are you? Thank you very much. Jackie Howe. Jackie Howe. Where's Jackie? Kevin and Donna Howe. Kevin and Donna Howe. And Gary Howe. We also have some people who we definitely want to recognize. We first want to recognize one of the gentlemen who has been with Tiny right from the beginning. He is the Deputy Superintendent of the Lowell Police Department. We're happy to have him with us this evening. William Nicky Fenn. And all the way down from Merrimack, he had to come down because he wanted to make sure that the William didn't get lost. The Chief of the Merrimack, New Hampshire Police Department, Joseph Devine. Joseph, where are you? Where are you, Joseph? And the Nashville Police Department, Major Clifton Largy and his wife Nancy. Clifton. also have a fellow out here who knew Tiny a long, long time ago, a fellow who traveled in the same circuit when he was in the fight game. Our good friend, one of the court officers now, former great champion Tommy Collins. Where's Tommy? And you know, you don't put these parties together with normally with just one or two people, and normally you don't even bother trying to introduce the committee because you're liable to miss out on somebody, but it would be certainly remiss of me and of the committee this evening and of the people from Mulligan family. They wanted me to thank this fellow because he did a great job from the time that Jimmy called him and asked him for help. The next thing you know, the tickets were printed, the hall was rented, and he had made arrangements for a lot of things. Paul Bourgeois, Paul. Paul pronounces it bourgeois when he's over here in Centerville. He gets up around St. Anthony's Church and calls himself Borges. Another guy who goes back a long, long time with the guest of honor this evening, a fellow who served with them, played ball with them, and formerly served as the mayor of the city of Lowell, our good friend Joe Down. Thanks for having with us, sir. You know, we could go out, each and every one of these tables probably has one or two on it, but most of the tables have some, a lot of them are down in the back. But it's a great tribute to you, Tiny, and it's a great tribute to the police department, and I say this very sincerely, to have so many people who continue to show up at these affairs and the communion breakfast and any of the functions that the police are involved in, to see so many of the retired officers. Will you all stand up, please? Thank you for coming, all of the retired officers. Mendy stood up. He thought he was retired, but please, 2 more years, Leo. Don't let Sheehan know that you're retired yet. We'd like now to move into the speaking program because we've only got the hall until 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And we have a very, very long speaking program. And we want to make sure that we do it all properly. You all right, Tiny? We'll get you back to the home early. Don't worry about it. How do you like the jacket he's wearing tonight, huh? Nathan Burke, 3950. He's got a belt in the back, busted brown shoes, you get the whole thing. Yeah. Kind of a cute shirt you got on, too. The pink tie. Jesus Christ, where the hell have you been hanging around? A pink tie. I knew when you used to kick the shit out of guys for wearing pink ties. We're not going to work any more rest areas. For a few words now, the superintendent of the Lowell Police Department, my good friend and Chinese understudy a number of years ago, John Sheehan. John Sheehan.
Thank you, Ken. It took me a little while. Stan, the city manager, was going to speak first. But anyway, seeing as I'm here, I'll finish it. Tiny and Barbara, members of the head table, family and friends of Tiny and Barbara. It's certainly an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to be here tonight to really talk about a friend that goes back a long, long time. And I talked to Kenny, and he has allowed me to tell, in fairness, just 2 tiny stories tonight. Let me tell you, I could tell 150 of them if I had the chance. But in fairness to Tiny Mulligan, and I stand before you as the chief of police of this city, this is the only man that ever got the best of me in 25 years. And let me tell you how he did it. I go in the police department many years ago. As a rookie, I showed up at roll call. Of course, in them days, they didn't give you the training and the education of the police academy. You just walked in and gave you a billy club and a badge and went out and did the job. So that night, I was due. Of course, first and foremost, I didn't know what view was. But I checked around, that was a route. That was Route 17 in Stanley View, God rest his soul. That was his route. He was Tiny's partner. So Tiny came up in a very friendly type person. He said, "Hey, rookie, you're working with me tonight." I said, "Thank you very much, sir. What do we do?" He said, "Well, we start here at City Hall, and we go all the way up to St. Joe's Hospital." And he said, "What you do is, you shake the doors, you make sure they're locked, check all the windows, and I'll meet you back at the club diner at 2:30. Well, let me tell you, I went like a son of a bitch. And I got down there, and I said, "Tiny, man, well, this is a tough job." "It is, it is." So we got friendly, and we got a coffee, and he said, "You know, I got to tell you, rookie," he said, "that's the way life is." He said, "You did my route tonight, and your route." Like I said, he did get the best of me. But then there was the other time, and I want to highlight this because I think most of the police officers that worked with Tiny Mulligan will remember perhaps one of the roughest, toughest son of the guns ever to come out of the city of Lowell. But Tiny had a phobia. His phobia was he didn't like dead bodies, and he didn't like blood. And in his day, he probably spilled a little blood, probably saw a few dead bodies. But we all knew what he thought of those. Well, anyways, I had been fortunate enough to be promoted to sergeant. And I was working the criminal bureau one night, and around 2 in the morning, I received a phone call that Tiny Mulligan, on his route at Dept Street, requested my presence. That Tiny had a sudden death, and he would meet me at the scene. Well, I show up, and here's Tiny. It's a multi-level building. We won't get into the particulars because I feel the deceased should rest in peace. But Tiny's waiting for me outside. And, "Sergeant, yes, Tiny, what do we got?" He said, "Well, it looks clean." He says, "It looks like a natural death." He said, "Rigor mortis is setting in at the neck, and it's starting to work its way down, which means that's indicative of a death probably running 2 to 6 hours." He said, "Not only that, Sergeant," he said, "but there's post-morbidity stains in the back, which means the body hasn't been moved." And I'm saying to myself, is this Tiny Mulligan? So I go upstairs, and sure enough, there's a couple of medical technicians up there attending to the body. And I said, "Fellas, what does it look like?" "Well, yeah, we just talked to Tiny because," "What do you mean you talked to Tiny?" "Well, Tiny wouldn't come up. We had to get down and talk to him." So I'd like at this time to turn to, in fairness, a more serious mood. It is Tiny's retirement, and in fairness, Tiny, I would like to say that members of the Lowell Police Department and myself are certainly going to miss you, Tiny. But on behalf of the department, I would like to present to you a plaque, and it's to Officer William F. Tiny Mulligan, Lowell Police Department. Tiny was appointed in reserve on 1/25/1959. He was appointed a permanent police officer on 1/21/62, and he retired on 3/25/1988. Appreciation for 29 years of dedicated service to the Lowell Police Department. Tiny, thank you. Very much. Tiny remembers me when I didn't have gray hair. But anyways, Tiny, on behalf also of the Lowell Police Department, we would like to present to you a resolution, and it's dated April 5th, 1988, and it goes as follows. When a true, faithful, and trusted brother or officer has retired, it is very appropriate to honor and record his many years of dedicated and excellent service. Therefore, William F. Tiny Mulligan, patrolman, was a true, efficient, dedicated, and trusted officer And whereas his conduct for his entire service was of the highest order, marked by excellent judgment, as well as strict adherence to his sworn duty, and whereas he has continuously demonstrated all the traits of a professional police officer during his many years of service with the Lowell Police Department, his unselfishness and devotion to duty has continuously been most evident to his superiors, his brother officers, and the citizens of Lowell. Therefore, be it resolved that we, as friends and as brother officers, agree that these resolutions be spread upon the records of the department, thereby making a permanent and lasting record of his value to the department and the city of Lowell. It's signed by the Superintendent of Police, April 5th, 1988. Tiny.
Thank you very much, Chief. You'll have to move in, Tiny, because you can't get by there. Thank you, Chief. The next speaker, who was supposed to be the first speaker, who's going to be the second speaker because I screwed up with the first speaker. He would have been the first speaker if I hadn't screwed up with the second speaker. But he's going to be the second speaker because he's not the first speaker, because the first speaker's already spoken, who was the second speaker to speak. You got that? Okay. Make 7 copies and send them to my office in the morning. The city manager, Jimmy Campbell. Jimmy.
Thank you very much, Ken. I know this is entitled a roast, but I've learned a couple of things, at least, in my 9 years of government. And one was you never pick on someone that's bigger than you, and I won't. And number 2, you never take a shot at Harkins because he always gets even. It isn't often that you have the opportunity at an event like this to talk about someone who's really become a legend in his own time. Someone whose accomplishments in life have made him a household name in his community. Tiny's boxing accomplishments have brought great pride to this community. I know my father was a great boxing fan. I know in his era, Tiny, you were a hero in this city. You still are today. In addition, you made people proud that they were from the city of Lowell. You gave them hope. And during that era, there was not much hope in our community. This is a great accomplishment. I think it is as important as many of the current day accomplishments that occur today. And for that, I'd like to say that the people of Lowell are certainly very proud of you. And I think we certainly owe you a great debt of gratitude. Your accomplishments certainly did not stop in the ring. You chose a career and a profession and one that also helps the community. And that was, in this case, the Lowell Police Department. And I believe that a police department reflects greatly on its community. You show me a lousy police department, and I'll show you a lousy community. And I don't think there's any accident that Lowell has become one of the most progressive mid-sized cities in the United States. And that happened certainly with the great assistance of the Lowell Police Department and men like Tiny Mulligan. And I mentioned, Tiny, that you were a legend in the ring, but you also became a legend in the Lowell Police Department. And I would bet this evening that there are many people in this room that were broken in as rookies by Tiny Mulligan. I've heard many, many stories that procedures and books that were written, but those were all thrown away when a rookie came onto the Lowell Police Department, and they were assigned to Tiny Mulligan, and they went on to become great police officers. And we heard one this evening, the chief, who was broken in by Tiny, and he learned a little bit about deception along the way. And also, Tiny, as the story goes, and I can certainly relate to this because when I was growing up in Lowell, you had a reputation in downtown, and we knew how far we could go as youngsters in Lowell when we came into downtown, and you reflected that respect. And there were many nights in downtown Lowell when Tiny Mulligan was the difference between anarchy and order in downtown Lowell, and for that we certainly owe you a great deal of respect. So Tiny, I guess what I have to say is that you've really earned the respect of people on both sides of the law, the people that you've been protecting, and the people who were not obeying the law, and the people that knew that there were people like you, Tiny, that were going to keep them in line with downtown. And that, enough can't be said about that. That's just a great accomplishment. So you have earned the respect of your community, and that, I think, is the most important part of tonight's event. I think it's more important than anything that will be said here tonight. And I'm proud to say that in 9 years that I've been in city government and have had the opportunity to work with you, that I'm proud to call you my friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jimmy. That's right. Tiny's always been an outstanding officer. In fact, one time in court, the judge looked out and he said, Officer Mulligan, did you give this man his rights? He said, yes, Your Honor, and threw in a couple of lefts also. Always gave a guy a fair shot. Talking about giving a guy a fair shot, we get a guy that we're going to bring up here now for a couple of minutes, or an hour and a half, a day, I'm not sure which. This guy grew up in Lower Belvedere. Well, actually, he never grew up. But he was born in Lower Belvedere. He was a classmate of Tiny. Actually, he wasn't a classmate of Tiny because this kid never went to school. But his father was a classmate of Tiny or something. I don't know. But he's a good kid, and he's a funny man, and he's my friend and Tiny's friend. Billy Murphy. Come up here, Billy. Take a look at that head. There must have been something in the air where you guys live. Take a look at the guy. Did you guys ever get introduced to Wig World of America? Did any of you know Father Morissette?
This is a wig. I have really beautiful black hair. I wear this to keep the young women away from me. I think a midget was here before me. I don't know what I'm doing here. I was just hanging around. I wasn't doing nothing. I was just hanging around doing nothing. And this funny-looking guy named Jim Campbell. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing." And I wasn't either. I was just hanging around doing nothing. He said, "They're having a party for Jimmy Mulligan tonight. And we want you to come up here and say a few words of wisdom." They picked the right guy. Tiny Mulligan. I thought it was Grady Mulligan. That's why I went. But it turns out I know Tiny Mulligan very well. I don't like him, but I know him. He used to hang around with my father. My father didn't like him either. But he's really not a bad guy, you know. He built a halfway house for girls that don't want to go all the way. You know, Tiny used to hang around his joint, but he wasn't here for about a month. And one night he went in the back and said, "Where you been?" He said, "Oh," he said, "No, I want a free trip to Europe." He said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, me and Joe." "Oh, Joe, the guy with the crutches?" He said, "Yeah, my good buddy." He said, "Where'd you go?" He said, "Well, we went to Scotland." "What'd you do in Scotland?" He said, "I did the human flu." He said, "Did Joe go to him?" He can't do the human flu, he's crippled. "Oh, yeah." He said, "Where'd you go then?" He said, "Went to Switzerland." "What'd you do in Switzerland?" He says, "I went skiing." "Joe goes skiing?" He said, "Joe can't ski, he's crippled." "Yeah, he "What'd you do then?" He said, "Went to Spain." "What'd you do in Spain?" He said, "I fought the bulls." "Did Joe fight the bulls?" "Joe can't fight the bulls, he's crippled." "Oh, yeah." "What'd you do then?" He said, "Went to Rome." "What'd you do in Rome?" He said, "Went to see the Pope."
And a funny thing happened, he said. The Pope looked at Joe and he said, throw away your left crutch. And Joe threw away his left crutch. And the Pope said, Joe, throw away your right crutch. And Joe threw away his right crutch. And the bartender said, did he walk into it? He said, no, he said, he fell down, he crippled, you know. But you know, most people don't know, Johnny's very athletic. Once he's up in a white mountain, when he's up in the mountains, he was walking through this trail, and he fell off a cliff. 10,000-foot drop. And halfway down, he caught onto a branch, and he's hanging there. And he looked up and he said, anybody up there? Anybody up there? He said, I need help. And this magnificent voice come booming through the mountains. And the voice said, I am up here. And Tony says, will you help me? He says, I will help you, but you must have faith. And Tony says, I have faith. And the voice said, you must believe. Oh, the voice, wrong voice. He said, the voice says, you must believe in me.